Okay, today's date is April 13th. My name is Leah Michelle Cash, and I am interviewing Keith Lee for the Archiving Black History in the Inland Empire Project. His name is spelled
Keith, and the last name is a common name, Lee.
Okay, so we are interviewing here in the home of Amina Carter and Retibu in the city of Rialto, California. So thank you, Mr. Lee, for taking out the time to conduct this interview with us. So, tell us a little bit about how you started playing golf and who introduced you to the game.
Well, it's actually really very funny. I started the game of golf when one of my bosses said to me, "I want you to come out to the golf course with me." And I had no idea what I was doing. He knew I was an athlete, though, and he thought that I would appreciate the game. His name was Ed Chabatini, and at the time he was a top county administrator, and so I thought it would be in my best interest to go with him. And I'm really glad I did, because as a former athlete, one of the things that I think old athletes love to do is they still love to compete. But you can't compete sometimes in the sport that you played when you were a child, because those are young men's game. Golf you can play until you leave this world. So, but Ed Chabatini introduced me to the game of golf and got me somewhat hooked on it, and thousands of dollars later I'm still playing it.
Well, that's good. So now, how often do you play or keep your game sharp and going?
It's a good question. I play almost every weekend. I have a tournament, or I'm involved with a group of black golfers here in the Inland Empire called the Honors Club. There are two black golf clubs in the Inland Empire. One is called the Inland Empire Golf Club, and the other one is called the Honors Club. And they both have memberships from both Riverside and San Bernardino County, and both of them play on a weekly basis. So I typically play with them every weekend, and then sometimes I play during the week. And I will also go out and hit balls in the evening or afternoons, just to kind of keep my game somewhat
Sharp.
There are some guys who are incredible golfers in the Inland Empire, and I'm not one of them. I'm a decent golfer, but I'm not one of those guys.
Okay. Well, what's your proudest golf accomplishment?
I think I would have to say the proudest I've ever been is, just like there are two golf clubs in the Inland Empire, there is a black golf association called the Western States Golf Association. It is made up of black golf clubs from throughout the western United States. And every year they have an annual tournament, and that tournament is moved around from different places. 2 years ago it was in Reno, Nevada. Before that it was in Denver, Colorado. This last year it was in Portland, Oregon. It moves around. And I think one of the proudest moments that I had was I've actually won that tournament twice in my flight.
Ooh.
And so what it says...
To win that tournament, you have to be a little bit not amateur. You
well,
have
no,
to be,
in my flight...
You have a good game.
No, in my flight, it just says that in the flight that I was in, I was the best in that flight. That doesn't mean anything, because you have several layers, and there are guys who are champions, and then there are guys like me who are okay. And so... But it was a very proud moment, and they do it up real nice at the award ceremony. It's in a big banquet hall with, they do just a beautiful layout for dinner, songs, prizes, trophies, the whole bit. It's just an amazing experience, and for anyone who comes after, I would just say that if you ever had an opportunity to get involved, you should.
You should. Now, here's a question I'm going to ask you. Do you think you could come up with a photo for our archive of that golfing award that you won,
Sure.
that you received?
Sure.
Thank you very much. That would be a donation and an add to
Sure.
your story
Sure,
in
sure.
the archiving project.
Sure.
So now, what is your association with the other African American golfers? Have you built really strong friendships and ties with the other black golfers that are in the Inland Empire?
The answer to that question would be yes. I currently serve as the treasurer for the Honors Golf Club and the photographer for the club. And the two clubs, the Inland Empire Golf Club and the Honors Golf Club, we also put on an annual 2-day tournament, which is why I couldn't meet with you last week.
Okay.
We were right in the throes of that and had a wonderful tournament this past weekend where we golfed at Sierra Lakes and at the Arrowhead Country Club with over about 80 golfers coming from all over California, as well as some coming from out of state. We all try and support each other and our endeavors in putting on these tournaments, and it really makes it a lot of fun. It's modeled after the Western state that I just talked about, except for it's just the Inland Empire. And so each community that puts one of these on, San Diego has a club, LA has a couple clubs, San Francisco, and they all try and put on real nice tournaments. And so I have gotten to know many of those golfers and have become close to some. The former president of the Honors Club, he and I just became very, very close friends. And I'm pleased to have made his acquaintance, a former Army. A lot of black golfers are ex-military guys, and they have really some experiences that hopefully you'll be able to pick up on.
Be able to interview them and
yeah.
hear about some of their experiences.
Far more vast than mine is. I'm very limited in that, I was more of a basketball player, and I didn't get into golf until late. And I talked one of my buddies, my golf buddies, into it, my basketball buddies, I should say, into golfing, and we've been doing it ever since.
Ever since.
It's been just a ton of fun.
Okay, now I'm just going to switch the question just a little bit because of the fact that you are one of the people as a young person that has, let me see how to put this, is really basically a prince of the Inland Empire as an African American male. Stop, Keith.
I don't know what
because
that means.
That means
whatever that means.
That means that a young person who had during his young adult life and then his adult life as a male became prominent in the Inland Empire. And you are a prominent male that's been in the Inland Empire. So out of all of that, okay, who is it in the Inland Empire in our area that inspired you the most?
That's an interesting question, and I'm humbled by the fact that you would even say that. The fact is, none of us get where we are by ourselves.
By ourselves.
And secondly, to not say and to not give God the glory for what we have achieved would be wrong. We are nothing more than vessels just passing through. And He has tremendously blessed me.
Yes.
And so I cannot take credit for any of that. What I will tell you is I had an awful strong African American mother who was just a queen in my life.
Yes.
Beat me when she felt she had to, and I didn't appreciate it then, but certainly now that I'm much older, I totally get it, and I just love her for it. but she put the values in me that made me what I am today. And that was reinforced. You know, I think one of the things that we have lost in America today is the community. You know, it didn't have to be just your mom. There were a community of moms who kind of watched out for kids all over. And I would remember coming home from somewhere, and my mom already knew where I'd been because Miss So-and-so had called her, Miss and you know, and sometimes the belt was waiting for me at the door. So you learn that you are part of a bigger community. So the first person, obviously after God, because he's first, but then is my mother and my father, but more my mother, because my father's in the military and he was gone. So the raising of young people a lot of times falls to the mother. And my mother was quite a lady. But then after that, people like Francis Grice and Wesley Jefferson and Bobby Bivens and Amina Carter and others were all significant people in our community. I can really remember Norris Gregory as one of the first African American council members, and he lived like around the corner. Dr. White, you know, one of the practicing physicians, he lived around. You know, these were people who sought to achieve, and they became role models, I think, for all of us. My family, I come from a family of people who, on my father's side, who had their own businesses, and every year we would go visit them and spend time with them. So you got to know that as a person, you have to, you know, you could take all you want, but the fact is, our responsibility is to give and not to take. And so many of these wonderful people who have crossed my path in life have reinforced that whole notion, give. That's what we ought to be about, giving. And so you look at the work that Amina Carter even is doing today and doing this project. It's giving back. Many of the things that some of us just take for granted. And I mean, the first black law enforcement officers, many of those guys I've gotten to be friends with. Yes. And it just, they gave. They gave time, money, effort, and some of them gave their lives. So I felt like and feel like there's no way that you can look at that and then say, I'm going to be selfish with my life and with my time. What you want to do is try and give back.
Yeah. Okay, very well said, Keith. Now we're going to go back to your participation as a young prince in the Second Chance program. Because that's one of the things that Amina speaks about, is that we've had all of these youth programs, and we've had youth come through many programs in the Inland Empire, and we have not documented their progress. You know, we don't get to hear or to see the progress and the benefit that a program put in regarding a youth. But regarding Second Chance, one of the outstanding programs of Francis Grice, we have you here to speak about that empowerment and how that affected your life.
Well, I have to stop and pause for a moment. I am a single voice of many voices that did pass through Operation Second Chance. And I think everyone who passed through was touched in one way or another. Even my wife, at one point or another, worked at Second Chance. And I laugh about it because she's a sister from the West Side. I mean, you know, so we laugh and talk about that. But the fact is, because Francis was willing to step out in faith to do something that had never been done before, many of us benefited from that. as a 14-year-old child who desperately wanted to get a job, like a lot of young people.
14.
14. I didn't know where I was going to work, and I can only do so much at home. Mama basically was get out the house. So Francis, through a friend who lived around the corner, Kenny Hobbs, he asked me to come with him to Second Chance, and that's how I got to start working with Operation Second Chance. And our first job was working the fireworks booth for the 4th of July, which is how they raised extra money. And it was the first time somebody ever tried to do the old shuffling of switching money on me, and I learned the cashiering trick from that old thing, like, whoa. But the values of hard work were instilled way back as a young man. And then they always encouraged us to go to school, go to college, and which is what I did. I was going to go anyway, but because that was just installed in me from a young man, but it was reinforced by Second Chance. And then when I came and when I graduated, here I accomplished all the things I'd accomplished in college. I didn't know where I was going to go to work. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I came back home. And it was, again, Ken Hobbs and Operation Second Chance that provided me that opportunity. And Frances literally took me underneath her wings for many, many years.
Yeah, you're one of her babies.
And had me work directly with her on a number of programs. We put together one of the Inland Empire's first ever telethon for contractors. And the whole idea was we worked very hard to secure bid opportunities for minority contractors to bid on. And it became a national motto. And she brought out Truman Jock, who was a big NBC reporter, brought him out, and we used KVCR TV. I mean, it was just an amazing creative time, especially given the fact that there was so much turmoil. When you look back, there was so much turmoil in the country, in the land.
Country and in the land.
I mean, we're talking about the later 70s, but that was not that far from when Martin Luther King had arrived on the scene. And so I think a lot of us were simply trying to find our way, and she was very much a trailblazer. And I certainly hope if you have that opportunity to interview her, that you do that, because this is a woman that without her, many of us, many of us would never have had that opportunity.
She's writing her story. She's writing her biography.
Yeah, and it needs to be told.
With some outstanding history.
It needs to be told. I mean, I didn't know nothing about Washington, D.C. She took me. And then not only did she take me against, and this is actually a funny story, against what Wesley thought should be done at the time, she said, go by yourself. And go to this hearing that Senator Perrin Mitchell was hosting about minority businesses in Washington, D.C.
How old were you then?
I was in my early 20s, late 20s. And so, I mean, so she had faith in that I would get it done.
You discovered that airport? Because that Washington, D.C. airport ain't no joke.
Ain't no joke. I did. Found my hotel. And
that ain't no joke either.
And through the years have found myself back and forth in Washington many times. But it was her that sent me there. I wasn't never afraid to travel. My father's in the Air Force. We traveled.
You had the faith in you to go do it on your own.
Yeah, go.
How'd you feel after you'd done that and come back home?
You never know when you're going through it, the impacts that you and may be having on others and on yourself. You just don't know. But what I will say is what a tremendous blessing Second Chance was to those who were able to participate like myself. Bobby Bivens, who became a national leader in the NAACP. I mean, it came through Second Chance because she was very much involved. She told us to get involved. The West Side Action Group, who, later on I became a president of that group, and who, Ratibu, also was very involved. But it was those associations that begin as second chance.
Second chance.
You know, when the county didn't want to have when they didn't want to have Martin Luther King holiday, Ratibu and I, he was on the outside agitating, and I'm on the inside telling them, "What's wrong with you people? What's wrong?" I mean, are we? And it's it's a funny story because
It's funny you say that. Rativa's agitated, and I think you even though you were on the inside, you were somewhat of a peacemaker.
I'm telling
connecting.
I'm telling the 5 board members, and my boss at the time, Supervisor Bob Hammock, said, you can talk to him. And he was he was rattling the chain. And I'm saying to them, and I had done my homework, I said, look, there's 58 counties in California. 56 of these counties have decided that this should be a statewide holiday, a holiday for their county, and here we are. How foolish do we look? And with him doing the agitating on the inside of me, pounding on as one of the only blacks that were there.
The connector.
When the vote came up, I believe they felt like they had no other choice at that time. And so some real tough discussions. But again, it goes back to Frances pushing the black men who worked underneath her to work together with the West Side Action Group and many of the individuals who were there. And that's how some of us formed such a close bond. And a bond and a friendship that is even good to this day. It's not like we don't know who each other are. And so it's
very true.
It's pretty amazing. And so comes from one woman having the tenacity and the courage, despite her beginnings and despite whatever else may have been an impediment in her life, pushing forward with her dreams that enfolded all of us and brought us along.
And brought you along. That's excellent, Keith. So now, as in the wrap-up, what would you like to say to a young person who would inspire to play the game of golf and hasn't picked up that, I don't even know what you call it. What do you call the golf stick or whatever it is?
Golf club.
A golf
club. How about a golf club, Leah? How about a golf club?
I'm ignorant to the whole process, and I have a brother who absolutely loves the game of golf.
And to you, Leah, I would say, one of the things that we've seen really growing in the game of golf is women golfers. And
women golfers.
I'm going to take a sideline. I'm going to answer your question, but I'm going to take a sideline route. And I'm just going to tell you, golf for many, many years has been thought of as an exclusive sport for the rich and all of that. Not so. But it is a wonderful place. I will tell any child, it's a wonderful, wonderful place to meet leaders and spend quality time with them. Where else can you be with the director of a corporation or the president of a company for 4 hours? Undivided time. And you could talk about anything you want.
Talk about anything.
Now, they're not, they're golfing, so obviously they don't want to talk business, but they begin to form, and that's what that guy who introduced me to helped me to understand. This is how you meet and connect with people who can help you throughout life. So to the young people who you asked, what would I say to them? The first thing that I would say to any young person, you need to be a person of faith. I'm not saying you have to believe in my faith, although I would encourage that. But there are so many things in this life that happen to us, we don't know why or how it has happened to us, and only God is going to be able to answer that one day. So the first thing is follow your faith. I think if you're a young woman who's watching this, God has given women this intuitive ability to sense things, even more so than men. Men are just, that's why we play golf, because it gives us that ability to push through things. But women have an intuitive sense, and sometimes when a woman doesn't follow her intuition, she knows it, and she knows that she missed out on something that she should not have. And it's, again, part of our faith and who we are. And so to young people, I would say follow your faith first. Secondly, if your heart says to you that you should play sports, basketball was my game, and it was one of the first and biggest lessons that I had. One of the things that happen, you will find a lot of people in your life who will tell you what you can't do, why you shouldn't do it. You know, if you're a young woman, you have kids, and why you can't go back to school and become something and make something. There are always naysayers in life. What we want are people who are going to encourage us to be the best that we can be. And what I would say to any young person is be the very best that you could be. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If it's tiddlywinks, if it's flag football, if it's golf, be the best that you can be, because that will lead to other opportunities. I guarantee it will lead to other opportunities, and you will begin to find out more and more about yourself and why God has put you here on this earth, so that you can reach out to others and help someone else. And then the final thing I would say to young people is don't be selfish. Don't be selfish with your time. Don't be selfish with your resources and finances. Don't be selfish, because God has blessed us so that we in turn can bless someone else.
Yes.
And that's what I would say.
Okay, well that is a lot, and we thank you, Mr. Keith Lee,
You're
for
welcome.
doing this interview for this project.
You're welcome.
We thank you very much.
You're welcome.